Welcome to the world of, in the world of Winooski. I'm obviously not Christine Lott, Mayor Lott, who usually hosts this show, but she was kind enough to let the Winooski School Board do a mini takeover to provide our Winooski community a little bit of an update on the Winooski construction project. And I'm lucky here to have two guests here, but let me give you some background information because I think people have been a little bit stressed out and may have kind of forgotten where we've come and and I'm hoping to have some of our students here to kind of talk, and alumni, talk about where we're going as we start finishing up with the Winooski School Capital Project. For those who were along for the ride in 2019, our community, and I'm so thankful for the community, for helping us pass a $57.8 million school bond vote to basically help us build and rejuvenate a school. And when I joined the school board, I really thought joining a school board was like talking about how do we save the arts programs. What I didn't realize was that I was going to be asking our community to really help support the real building and renovations and construction of a new school, because we had a building that was built for 600 students and we had 800 students, and that's why we needed the construction. We had roofs that were leaking water. For some reason in the 1960s, we had built buildings without insulation so that it was really cold or really hot in the winters and summers. The boiler, this is my favorite part, the boiler was still being used from the 1950s, and if it broke, it would have cost us a lot of money to replace it right away, or we were hoping that someone had decommissioned their boiler so that we could eBay the parts to fix the boiler. And in that way, in that spirit of things, I tell you these things because I know the last 2 years have been hard. Especially many people may question, why in the world would the school board and the school administration and with the teachers decide to actually continue the capital project during a pandemic? And I'm not going to lie, we asked for $57.8 million. As of today, August 23rd, as of August 23rd, we're probably going to be needing about $62 million for the project. But because we did it with COVID, because I have really talented administrators and staff, we are able to use a lot of our ESSER funds to help improve the HVAC systems, which is the heating and ventilation and AC units, that we're able to apply a lot of that money so that we're actually not going to need probably at this moment to borrow the full $57.8 million. We are only going to need to borrow $55-ish million, which is going to come at a cost savings for us. Now, people will still ask, why did you do it during COVID? Well, if we didn't do it in COVID, and let's say that we started the capital project now, I have estimates that it would have cost us about $90 to $100 million to build the school of what we have now. And so even though I recognize that it was really hard for us during this time period to deal with all the movement of the students from different classrooms to do it, I really believe that come October, there's going to be a great big celebration, and we're one of the few schools in Vermont that is going to not have to worry about their building. The Secretary of Education actually had commissioned a report, and almost 75% of the schools in Vermont were going to need to see some form of renovation or addition. And so I think we're prepared to really excel as a community with our new building. And I want to make sure people understand that this is not a building just for our future and our current students. This is a building for our whole community, because there is a better performing arts center. We're no more sitting on those chairs that we had got donated from St. Michael's that were over 50 years old and the cushions were coming out and stuff. And I'm going to say, this is going to be a building where we're going to see some of the highlighted works of our great students. And that's what I'm going to turn it over. And I have as a special guest here is Shristy here. And she's special to me a little bit here because when we were doing the capital planning project, And we were doing all the tours of the schools to like kind of bring in the public to see why did we need to like do this renovation project. I remember the school board chair at that time, Michael DeCaro, and I came in one day, and one day there were only 2 students who showed up for this this little school tour. And one of them was Shristy when she was in 6th grade. And I kind of, looking at you right now, like you're now a rising sophomore in the Winooski High School. Can you talk about like why did you come on that tour? And do you remember the tour?
Yeah, I remember going to the boiler room. I thought the tour was about like what the future of this building was, but like I was kind of disappointed when you guys just showed us around the building. But it was great because we got to present it to our class afterwards. And I think I remember like something about Essex doing something, and like we were angry at it later.
Right, because in many ways, like the school building wasn't really preparing you for the future, right? Mm-hmm. Do you remember when we did the tour a little bit that like I actually said, hey, Shristy, I'm hoping that we're building a school not only for you to use as you develop it over time, but I'm hoping that you'll kind of want to stay in the community and have your children go to this school, right? Can you speak a little bit to that maybe?
I don't know.
You don't remember and stuff?
It's like, we're talking about like having children and like going to school. I'm only in sophomore,
I know, but like, do you see yourself staying in Winooski?
Yeah, I think so. Because, Winooski is a small community. And I know like about almost everyone there. So I think because it's such a small community and it's very close, so I would feel comfortable coming back and like in the future after I'm done with, my studies and stuff to come back here and settle down. I would be like down to do that, definitely.
Do you think you would have stayed if we kept the schools?
No.
Right? That's what I'm trying to get at, right? Like it was really in bad shape, and I don't think people remember that, right?
Yeah.
Like,
the classrooms were so small. Now it's like big, and like, it's good.
Well, so please talk about like some of your experiences now, because we have renovated, we've added new space to certain things, and so you've gotten to experience a little bit of the new space. Can you talk about your excitement, of the school?
We got AC, like it's a lot better. I think that's the best part so far. And all of my teachers have their own classrooms. And so before, like, we have to be careful because the other teacher might not like what we're doing in that classroom, but now like they have their own, so we do whatever we want as long as the teacher in the classroom lets us. And I forgot the question.
So I'm going to add in, because I think in some ways people don't understand, like they think, oh, when I was older, like we didn't have AC, we didn't need to survive. But with climate change, like weren't the classrooms getting really, really hot without the AC at one point, like getting to 80, 90 degrees and stuff, which I think one of the things that there was a lot of intentionality that when we built the school, that we were going to create an environment that was great for the learner, right? And when the school's too cold or too hot, do you really want to learn in that environment?
Not really. During the winter, I think there were lots of students who had blankets, like they would come in with the blankets and like wear them, because it was so cold. Especially during the construction, when the high schoolers had to be in the elementary section. We had to sit in small chairs, small desks, and it was so cold. And like my cousin and would just wear blankets like every single day because it was so cold. Or it was like either because like the what is it called, the ventilation. It was so loud. It wasn't that like before, but it was so loud and like it was so hard to hear the teacher. And we also had masks on. So now, because it's not like we don't have the ventilation so loud, because we just have the AC there, not that cold, not that hot, just perfect. So we can hear our teachers well. Understand.
No, and it's important to realize how environment plays a part. And for those who are worried about like, hey, did we make this building green? You probably learned that We have geothermal in there. We have solar panels. And for those who are going to be, there's a new article coming out about how Winooski did with the solar panels. But we're also making this very environmental, green, and cost efficient. I'm hoping, this is a risky question, did you learn about some of the things that we were making the building green and stuff?
No.
Oh, my bad. You should learn about how we're doing the greenness of that. But as we're coming to like finishing up, can you like tell the community, are you excited about the new school? Like, what are you looking forward to? Like, is there any excitement, or are you going like, are we just passe and going like, oh, it's a building?
Well, right now, like the high school, the middle school, the elementary, all have their own sections, and the classroom, like I said, it's a lot bigger, and it's a lot easier because before the high school was like right there, the middle school was right there, and some of the high school and middle school were confusing, because we had to go back and forth and back and forth. But now it's so chill because everyone has their own place to go to, and I think the schedule right now is a lot more better than before because now.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Well, as we finish, what are the things that you're most excited about the building?
The buildings, okay, probably testing out the labs, yeah, because now we have like new equipments, and like we have this thing which like cleans out the chemical. That means we can do more work because before it was limited.
And I know that you have dreams, if you're all right with me sharing this, is that you have dreams of being a doctor and maybe becoming a Rhodes Scholar and stuff. Do you feel like we're building the space that allows you to accomplish those dreams?
Yeah. Right now, because I'm only a sophomore, I'm not there yet, but like so far, everyone's been helpful, and probably because I'm not really trying that much because I don't know much, but in like maybe when I'm junior or senior, I think I would be like ready because there's always someone in the community always like being like, where you want to go, what you want to do, like if you need help, like there's always someone trying to do that to a student, so that's great, yeah.
No, and I'm so happy that, that I actually first met you when you were in 6th grade on that tour. I thought it took a lot. You were the only 2 students that took. And I gotta admit, like, and I hope you respected this, that Mike and I didn't treat you like students. We took you as any regular tour because we knew that you were our equals and the community member. And I'm really glad that we're being able to build this school and we can share it together. And I'm looking forward to the day when we really open and bring up the whole school, when it's completely done, that you'll be there for the celebration and stuff. But I actually want to kind of shift a little bit because when our community built this school, it was important for me to know that we weren't just building a building for the sake of a building. We were building a building that was going to be integrated with our curriculum. And one of the things that I was proud about before I came on the school board, that the school district actually worked hard on changing the curriculum. And one of the things that I realized when I'm in like Winooski is that like we can't play the same game as some of the larger school districts because we have a smaller population. So we can't be offering all the AP classes. And that's why I was really proud when Vermont moved to flexible pathways and proficiency education. And I gotta admit, my doctorate's in education, so I kind of understood this bigger picture, right? And when I heard about it, I was like, oh my God, this is innovative, and this is going to be more inclusive and more, more inclusive and accessible to more of the population. But the hard part was, do I have proof that it worked? And that's why I brought this second guy here, Hussein Amuri, who's a rising sophomore at the University of Washington, who just finished his first year there. And I kind of wanted to talk to you, Hussein, about like, so did we prepare you for college? Like, and please, if you're not going to brag about how well you did, I will. So I'll let you do the bragging here.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me, Alex. And, I think growing up in Winooski and, having, went there for 4 years, the big kind of, argument being made by a lot of my peers, and people that, went to Winooski was, it is preparing us, for college. Like, we're not taking any AP classes. Okay, like we're not, doing the big thing that a lot of, college kids, usually do before they, they go on and, do their, study in college. first of all, I just want to say like, being a second year college student right now, I would say that, the hardest thing about college, okay, it's really not about the academic, the study, okay. In many ways, it's about the balance, okay, of life, okay. Like, and the struggle that comes with that, okay. And in many ways, a lot of times, like, mental health is a big problem for like a lot of like, college students. And for me personally, I go back to one of, my graduation expectation that I had to take, that being the well-being, GX, where it was all about kind of learning a lot more about like my social, emotional health, and how in many ways going into college, that was a big aspect for my life, for me learning how to manage that, okay, because again, like, the struggle of, being like, first year trying to kind of like, learn what's really happening and do your study, it's hard, okay, especially the study, more work, more commitment, okay, so having that, sort of, cushion of like, hey, let me take care of myself first, okay, like my mental health or what's going on, okay, then that's gonna help, help me succeed, okay, and being on that campus to this day, okay, I have a lot of kids, who went to like, private high schools, okay, schools that, had the resources, okay, but they didn't have that, when schools was hard, when mental health was just kind of, crushing them, okay, they didn't really have that sort of like, background of like, here's what you do when you're struggling, okay, here's like, for me personally, I remember like one of the best classes that I ever took in high school was this class on like, meditation, okay. I'm not big into meditation at all,
Right.
So like, I loved playing basketball, soccer, but, I remember like, just, a few, times back, this school year where like, I was like, hey, like, I really need to take care of myself, okay. So that's like one thing, okay, like, the academic of like, college is very prioritized by a lot of people for good reasons, for, you're there to study, okay. But it's a whole sort of like, structure of like, knowing yourself, okay, doing the little things, okay, of taking care of yourself, like asking questions that kind of, help you out, that kind of help you out in many ways. That's like the base on the foundation, okay. And for me personally, I can say that, in many ways that, Winooski did a great job in kind of like, giving me that, okay, especially through, the well-being GX.
No, I appreciate hearing that because, as you know, I do work at a university, and that mental health is the #1 issue that's coming out. And how do I work with this next generation? I mean, a lot of this generation's coming out of COVID now, dealing with all that pressure, and the fact that our school is actually doing that is a big step to actually succeeding academically, right?
Exactly, and like, I feel like in many ways, our curriculum that we have at Winooski foresaw this whole thing coming before anybody did, okay, like, because again, like, I think when we went about kind of creating it for students, it was not only about like what's really happening right now, but what's happening in the future, okay. I don't think anybody knew what, COVID was coming, but I feel like, there were a lot of signs, okay. Growing up now, like, social media and all that kind of stuff, like, there's this whole, pressure of like, what's really going on. And I know, like, I don't know, having me here, you kind of, want me to talk more about like, the academic side of like,
We'll get there.
of college, okay. And, one thing that I kind of remember very vividly in Winooski was this idea of like, we don't really do good at math, like,
Right.
Okay, our math classes and that as well. And not gonna lie, that was kind of like, a very like kind of hard concept for me to get rid of, going to my first year in college. One of the many classes that, you as a first year need to take at my school is like, Calc 1, that you have to take that before you graduate. For me personally, I did very well in my, math classes in Winooski. I had really great teachers that were there for me and kind of, gave me the help that I need, okay. But compared to a lot of, kids that go to college, okay, it was not like the way that I, went about learning in math it was not in a very traditional way where like, you're sitting in a class and somebody's just talking, okay. And in college, that's kind of how they went about teaching, okay. But back in Winooski, it was kind of, very like, personal, like it was personalized. It was me kind of, running my own agenda, okay. And in an environment where like, the teacher just, gives you lectures, like it talks to you, okay, that's really big. And I don't think a lot of people kind of, understand that, like, the ability to be able to kind of take, ask questions if you need to ask questions, okay, write down stuff if you need to write it down, okay, but also being able to, problem solve, okay, like that's a really big aspect of college that I feel like a lot of like, people don't really understand, because like, we have this mindset of like, the old traditional way of teaching works better, sit in a class, just memorize stuff, like, and repeat it, but in an environment where like, I don't know, where like you kind of like being given information, you gotta learn how to kind of, I don't know, not predict it, but kind of, find ways to eat it, okay, and be able to digest it, okay. And I think the best way that I think Winooski was able to help me find success in that one Calc 1 class, like it was just through like being able to just not memorize stuff, but kind of like apply to kind of
And you don't understand how much that warms my heart to hear you say that, because I know so many people, teachers and parents, or more parents and students, are going like, I don't have Algebra 1, I don't have Algebra 2, I don't have geometry. I'm learning about patterns, right? And I remember looking at those proficiency based, and I know I said I have a doctorate in education, but most people know I'm also got a BS and MS in electrical engineering, right, from Georgia Tech. And so when I looked at them, I was like, oh, yeah, they may not have geometry or, like the traditional form, pre-calc and all this, but they're learning concepts that are going to prepare them for college. And to hear that and can I brag about your grade? I mean, I know you're not happy with it, but you did get a B plus in Calc 1?
Yeah, I mean, it was not the best grade, but like...
But it's a solid grade, and I know, having studied higher ed and doing the numbers, that a lot of people struggle in Calc 1, and to hear that math not being your favorite subject. I know that you're like I was telling both of these folks that like this might be a famous video that's going to come out, that I talked to a future Supreme Court justice at the Vermont,
for her,
and a future medical school dean here. But it was excited for me to hear that like you did well, because I know that there's been a lot of complaints about the math program sometimes, right? And I agree with you about like the proficiency based education is like it's about the student taking ownership of their learning. And that's what college is about. Because I often tell folks early on when we were talking about proficiency-based education, what's the quadratic formula? And half the population won't be able to tell me what it is. And then if some did, they recited to me, I go like, so what did you use it for? And that's where I lose most of the people, unless I talk to an engineer who's like, love quadratic formulas and finding the zeros and all that. But we can talk about the credentials, but like, tell me, like, I mean, what are the other successes? Like, I've seen you critically think. I've read some of your editorials that you did that have like mixed writing and write that. And what impressed me about all that work that you did was that I know that a lot of Winooski students, early on when I was on the school board, they tell me, man, Alex, this proficiency-based education is great. We do well in these like problem-based classes and all this, but we suck at standardized testing. Yeah. And that scares me, because that's not what education to me is about. That's not what it prepares you to be in a community. It teaches critical thinking. Yeah. Like, so can you talk about a little bit more about that?
Yeah. One of the best classes that I ever took at Winooski was the culture and community engagement class, where it was all about kind of learning how to utilize the skills that you're learning in a class and apply to real community issue. Like we did a lot of work in that class, from having the mayor come in and just talk about some of our work, doing a lot of projects that are very community based, and I feel like the whole conversation about SAT, ACT, like it's all about like test. But in many ways, education is all about kind of like putting that into perspective, putting that into practice. And personally, like I love writing. That was one of the many sort of like criteria that I had to complete in high school. So kind of finding that balance of like here I'm learning about like racism, black kids. So like what does that mean to me? Okay. So having that kind of route of like where I can just put that in perspective and apply it like some like in a setting that's outside class, that was very powerful, because again that's how education works. That's how education works, using what you're learning in class and applying it to outside issues. Okay, for me, like some of the proudest moment like that that I've had from my college career right now so far is just being able to talk to a lot of my professors, not about my grade or my kind of like assignments in that class, but the way that I'm kind of utilizing some of the topic that I'm learning in that class into some of the stuff that I'm into, like social justice, community engagement, and all that kind of stuff. Because in many ways, that's literally like that's what's gonna take you far in life, like being able to kind of use those skills to try and make change in the community that you're residing in.
So why I'm grinning, right? I'm grinning because like what you're talking about is a famous Vermonter, John Dewey, educational philosopher who believed that education in action was democracy.
Yeah.
You learn in action, and I feel like you are truly embracing your inner Vermonter. Like I hear, you know, like on doing that thing and really doing that critical thinking and learning. And one of the things you talked about the community class, right? The culture and community, and I'm glad that you're here so you can hear some of this wisdom. Is that I've sat through a lot of those presentations, and one of the things that I'm always proud of is that when I go in there, I can ask questions, and I don't ask simple yes/no questions. I ask questions to see if you thought. And yes, I get my range of things, but the thing that I love about that class is that the students are starting to learn how to be empowered, that they can make change in the world. Am I crazy for thinking that, or, you know?
No, not at all. And I feel like, going back to some of those, pieces that I wrote up, in that newspaper, like they're very hard piece to write. Like one of them was about, Islamophobia on campus during a time where like a lot of, Muslim students were feeling unsafe due to an issue that took place. Like, being able to be like, hey, Islamophobia is bad, in a setting where like a lot of people are like, you know what, maybe we should not, be welcoming to, Muslim people, which is really awful. Obviously, it's really bad. But like having that knowledge, okay, and the action-based empowerment, okay, that did not come from me. I feel like that was me in many, but I had practice with that, and that practice goes way back to during my time, at Winooski, where like, I'm in a class with 2 teachers, surrounded by a lot of like, bright, young people who are my classmates that were able to kind of like, I don't know, empower me in many ways beyond that class to college. So, and for me, that's like literally like my favorite part about being a college student. It's like, I love going to class, I love doing all of that, but it's when I get to kind of like, interact and meet some other bright, young people on campus who are passionate about the stuff that I'm passionate about. And that's literally, how we make change, because I feel like if you're just sitting in class, listening to a lecture and, writing down notes and just, going to bed, the next morning, it's, you're not really doing anything, I feel like, education should be applied and not memorized.
Good. So can I brag a little bit? I'm gonna brag, like, because people out in the audience want to know, like, okay, Hussein, what was your GPA? Like, I hear all this good stuff, but what is your GPA?
My GPA, I have a solid 3.6 right now.
Oh, that's good.
Which is
I know you want to do better, but that's still a good GPA, right?
Yeah, I still have 3 more years left, and obviously I can improve it.
And I'm sorry, I'm going to promote because I know that some of our legislators are watching this, so I'm making sure that they know to be on the lookout and actively looking out for you for your summer internships. But aren't you on the SGA for there? And then aren't you an editor of the newspaper or a writer who will soon be a sports editor?
Yeah, I'm doing all those things. I'm currently serving as a senator on the school student government, which is a very proud moment for me, because I've always kind of been passionate about helping people and driving change, and I get to do that during my time in that space. I have always loved writing, so currently I'm serving as a sports editor for campus newspaper, and yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that the Winooski community can be proud of the students that we're producing coming out here, and because I am just like smiling so hard, like, and it's great because this is the time. We're gonna have a building, we're gonna have the pedagogy together, and really, and what's more amazing is that you actually want to come back to Vermont. Right? And that's how we're going to grow as a state. And I really do believe that, and I'm hoping that the community got a little insight on this, about how I really believe that we're going to be a little like beacon of light for the rest of Vermont and stuff. I do want to say on a more national, more at the local level, that like it's been 6 years since I've been on the school board, and I'm a little bit tired, and it's been a long ride, and so I'm going to be not rerunning. So if anybody is interested in running for a school board, please don't hesitate to contact me on this, because I think we're going to lead the school in a good district, and I hope that you're looking at too. You guys are excited, not only the school building but the students that we come. I joke in many ways that our Winooski page is going to start plethering of like these great leaders, and I admit we did a good job. So thank you for those at Winooski for coming to In the World. I'm sure, hoping Christine Lott really got to enjoy her vacation and was all right for this little school board takeover. And I hope the community really got to enjoy listening to our students. I also just want to make a shout out to David Klinker for his shirt. These are the other rules of our students who are, making their own companies and designing their own shirts. So I don't have just doctors. I don't have just future lawyers. I also have future business and entrepreneurs and fashion designers. So a lot to be proud of in Winooski. Thank you, y'all. Thank you.
Thank you.